Hey, it's Dr. Lee here. Thanks for requesting the 2016 version of my Frontdesk spreadsheet. Even if you're a longtime user, I encourage you to watch this video as there's been a couple of tweaks and improvements on the 2016 version that will help you. For those of you that have never used this spreadsheet, just to give you a little brief history, I'm a big believer in measuring statistics within any business and certainly our chiropractic practices. I have found that regardless of how much money that you spend on your chiropractic software, that very few of these programs have a full package of the statistics that I want to see on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, year to date. So many years ago, probably over a dozen, I developed my own Frontdesk spreadsheet. The downside is that it is an additional system. It takes an additional 3 to 5 minutes a day for you or a staff person to enter the necessary information. But the exchange for that commitment is that you get access to all of the numbers that I feel that you need in order to measure, run, train, improve a chiropractic practice in any of the functions or employees within it. So here's the Frontdesk spreadsheet. I've downloaded it, so it's on my desktop. When you open it, you may get a couple of these Microsoft Excel updates. Go ahead and click Update and Continue. And now we're into the Frontdesk spreadsheet. Basically, there are two different views to my Frontdesk spreadsheet. And this down here are the month tabs as well as the year-to-date tabs. As the year progresses and we get deeper into the year, or if you slide this bar over, you could end up hiding this year-to-date tab, but just know that the first tab is the year-to-date tab. This is going to give us our running monthly and then ultimately monthly totals leading up to a yearly total. We're going to compare it to last year's 2015's total and get percentages of differences. In addition, on this page, I automatically measure your chiropractic algebra. Again, those of you that are familiar with me are well aware that this is the formula that measures the economic power of your practice. For those of you that have never heard this concept, simply put, the number of new patients that you have multiplied by your patient visit average, the number of times that you see an average patient, multiplied times your OVA, your office visit average, or what you collect per visit, will give you your total collections. So when I work with docs, I work to improve new patients, improve retention, improve OVA, to dramatically improve collections. And if we can keep overhead stable, we dramatically improve profits. Additionally, on this bar, I measure adjusted percentage of collection, which is measuring how much of your production you should account for. And it's my belief that any mature chiropractic practice, if you're growing, it'll take time to get there, but once you're there, you should collect at 95% or better of your adjusted percentage of collections versus production. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. When you open up your spreadsheet, there's a couple of housekeeping things I'd like you to do. Right in this A1 cell, I'd like you to put your practice or doctor name right here, and then save the spreadsheet so that if you were to send it to me, I would be able to differentiate it from anybody else's. You'll notice here that this is going to be the date of the year. And as we put the date of the year in, it's going to automatically calculate what percentage of the year is already expired. So on January 1st, 0.55%. On October 1st of next year, right, there will have been 75.41% of the year complete. In the 2016 version of this spreadsheet, this number is going to automatically update each day when you open the spreadsheet. But it's going to tell you what percentage of the year is complete. Second housekeeping thing. At the end of 2015, I want you to calculate whichever of these stats that you have yearly totals for and enter them in on this row, row 18. So I'm going to go through what all of the stats are in this video, but this is just total patient visits. So if you have a total patient visit number from 15, it would go here. Total new patient number, total production number. And then we're going to use these numbers to automatically calculate how we're doing next year compared to this year. Third is on each, so the second view, the other view, is a monthly page for each month of next year, or each month of the current year, January, February, March, April, May, June. What I'd like you to do for each month, and you can do this up front, if it's still 2015, you can put the months that are already complete in your 2016 spreadsheet and get ready already. So this would be January 15's totals. This would be February's 15's totals. And it's at the top of the each page. So again, I will explain these stats momentarily, but you're just going to put the same month last year, in this case February. So February 15 totals would go in here. And we can do that all the way across the board. If you're getting this spreadsheet and the year has already started, so let's just hypothetically say it's March 15th and you're starting the spreadsheet, you have a couple of choices. The most important thing is that going forward, you're going to have an accurate and complete record of all the numbers that you need. But going backwards, you have a couple of choices. So first is, you could go, if you had monthly totals, you could go in for January, February, and then even the month to date in March. You could pick any one day in the month, like January 10th, and put in the monthly totals for January. And then February 10th, put in the monthly totals for February. And then if it was March 15th and you were going to start live, so you'd have the March 14th month to date numbers, you could put all of those in. And then each day start putting in your data, as I'm going to suggest next. So if you do that, obviously the week to date numbers will not be accurate until you have weeks that you've put in live. But the month to date and the year to date numbers will be correct. So it's how you implement the spreadsheet mid-year. Each day, what I want you to do is to enter all of these stats, which should take 3 to 5 minutes after you kind of get the gist of it. And docs, I want you to do it in the beginning. And once you master it and you understand each of the numbers that I'm asking for, if you would like to delegate it, you can delegate it. So either your office manager or a billing person or a front desk, any CA really, could be delegated to enter the data on the front desk spreadsheet. A couple of peculiarities to be aware of. So each month is the calendar month from the first of the month to the last day of the month. So even in February next year, as a tweak, we do include leap day. The second thing that I want you to look at is that each of these blocks represents one 7-day week. However, I have always run my weeks. The first day of the week is Friday. The last day of the week is Thursday. So my weeks run Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've met few chiropractors that run 7 days a week. I have met a few that work Sundays, but those that work Sundays typically do not work Saturdays. So you can still, the second day of each week on my spreadsheet is a Saturday. And if you're a Sunday person, you could just make it the Sunday instead of the Saturday. It won't matter. But my week runs from Friday to Thursday. The main reason that I do that, by the way, is that I find that if you run your week from Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday, it is human nature to want to leave the office and get to your weekend after your last patient of that week. And then if you mark it over the weekend, and even if you don't, typically the busiest chiropractic day of the week is Monday, so that you end up never really taking the time to analyze and plan out your week with your key days ahead of you. So my recommendation is that you end your week Thursday night. You do your planning meeting between the last patient Thursday night and the first patient Friday morning. So you're set up for your marketing weekend if you're marketing, and or your best day Monday in a fresh time when you can really plan for it. So that's that. As I said, I want you to get used to entering the data each day. And now here's another administrative tip, is I would like you to have reviewing your front desk spreadsheet as one of the things that you do before you mentally end your business day. So I've run up to 6 offices of my own at one time, plus about 25 clients, of which maybe a quarter would send, all of my offices and about a quarter of my clients would send me their front desk spreadsheets on an everyday basis. And I would not mentally shut off my day until I reviewed the last front desk spreadsheet. So particularly for the docs that know that their numbers in their head and understanding them is a weakness, I want to encourage you to add the discipline of opening and reviewing your front desk spreadsheet for just 2 or 3 minutes every day. And this will give you a much better sense. You will start to own your numbers in a different way. And you know, there's an adage that you can't manage what you don't measure. So the flip side is that you can manage what you do measure. And if we measure all of the important things, we can manage all of the important things. All right, so let's talk about what the stats are. And I've included a written explanation of these in the instruction download as well. So PV, or actual patient visits seen. By the way, I still believe in a sign-in sheet. So this would be every patient that you saw, they should be on the sign-in sheet with their signature, right? New patients, report of findings, reactivations, regular visit, anything else that you see clinically is a patient visit. And the total number seen that day. Patients scheduled would be the number of visits that were scheduled coming into the day. How many people were on your appointment book? WI stands for walk-ins, people that you ended up seeing that day but were not scheduled. NPS are new patients scheduled. How many new patients did you have scheduled that day? NP are actual new patients in the office. I consider somebody a new patient that's filled out the paperwork. I sit down across from and I ask them, tell me what's going on. They're only a new patient once in my office, but that's what a new patient is. Then I measure how many report of findings. I believe in a 2-day intake, consultation, exam, x-rays on day 1. Report of findings on day 2, first adjustment. So how many report of findings did you have that day? Now, from the report of findings in my system, there are 3 possible outcomes. A day 2 patient could be a MAP, a multiple appointment plan patient. This is a patient that has done 3 things. They've accepted our recommendations for care. They've agreed to pay their out-of-pocket expenses in some way, and they've scheduled out all of their visits. It's the ideal outcome of our day 2 report of findings. So how many MAPs did happen that day? TO is treatment other. So if at the report of finding, the patient agrees to any care that isn't the best that we recommended, or didn't schedule out, or didn't agree to pay, but they got care, I call that treatment other. There's a third possibility, which is that the report of findings, the prospect says no, they don't want any care, and they never get adjusted. So one is, we don't want that to really happen that often, so I really want you to dive in and improve your day 1 and day 2. But I don't even want to measure it here because I don't want to give it energy to focus on. So basically, if you had it, you could determine it by taking your total report of findings and then subtracting your MAPs and subtracting your treatment others. So if we had 10 ROFs and 7 mapped and 2 TO'd, then there would be 1 non-treater. But I don't calculate it because I don't want to give it energy. The next stat is production, the total dollars serviced that day. And excuse me, next is collections, total number of collections that day. Then write-offs. And write-offs is a very critical and important number. Write-offs are all of the monies that you know that you won't, can't, might even be illegal to try to collect. And there's lots of different ways that write-offs occur. So write-offs can occur because you're in an insurance network and you accept their rates. Write-offs can occur because you gave a patient a 10% discount to prepay. Write-offs could occur because, as in my home state, Pennsylvania, if you see a PI patient, or you see a workers' comp patient, or you see a Medicare patient, or you see a welfare patient, the fees paid are different than what we charge, and we're not allowed, sometimes we're allowed to collect part of the difference, but sometimes we're not, and it's a whole mishmash. So write-offs become very critical. If you do not measure write-offs, you cannot measure how effective you are in collecting. Next is front desk money. This would be, I use this to measure really, you know, when patients pay us. So maybe patient payment is even a better moniker here, but you can decide what to count. But essentially, I want to measure monies that are paid that are not from insurance companies or attorneys, right? That direct pay from patients. So it could be money at the front desk. It could be money that's mailed in. It could be an auto debit charge. It could be a care credit payment, but that would be front desk money. Next is reactivating old patients. This is any patient that we've seen prior and now they're back for another consultation. And then there are 3 columns here, which I do have currently labeled as Dr. X, Rehab, and Re-X-Ray. But these are any 3 things that you would like to measure, and it will automatically add them up. So if there was an associate doctor, you might measure his or her visits separately from the total visits. Or if you're introducing rehab or spinal reconstruction and you wanted to measure how many of those visits that you had, you could do that. Or if you wanted to measure how many re-x-rays you could, but there's other things that you might want to measure. So if you did nutrition, supplements, vitamins, you might want to keep a dollar amount of those services. You might want to keep anything else that you'd want to add up. This next column, the S column, is one of my favorite stats. It's the 7-day scheduled visits. So every single day, at the end of the day, I would like you to count and know how many visits you have scheduled for the next 7 days. It's kind of a momentum number, and it measures kind of how you're doing on a lot of different levels. Next is RE, which is the number of re-exams that we've done that day. And lastly is CMRS, canceled, missed, or rescheduled. So people that were scheduled and they didn't come in, how many people missed their appointment. Again, I include all of these on the instruction sheet, and encourage you to really get familiar with these. So again, on the year-to-date tab, we're going to see the current month-to-date, the prior month totals. We're going to compare it to 2015. And so what will happen here, and I don't have the numbers in, but as soon as you do have the numbers in, what will end up happening is you want to compare this number, what percentage of the year is complete. So let's just say this is going to say 10%. So if your collections was at 12%, you know that you're actually, in this case, you're at 12% of last year and it's only 10% done. So you're 2% ahead, but actually that's 20%, the difference between 2 and 10%. So you would be 20% ahead. So that's detailed down the road. As you start to fill the numbers in, you will start to understand it a little bit better. What I want to leave you with here is your charge. What I want you as a business owner, future business owner, or certainly creator of your own practice, I would like for you to at least know how many total new patients, total visits, and total collections that you've achieved on a week-to-date, month-to-date, and year-to-date basis. So at any point, if you're asked, you could give any of those 9 numbers. So again, particularly for those of you that feel that you're bad or you've always shied away from this is the specific thing to start working on. And if you need to do it one at a time, then do it one at a time. If you need to do it just weekly or just monthly in the beginning, then just do it weekly or monthly. But ultimately, your week-to-date, month-to-date, year-to-date, total visits, total new patients, total collections. From that, you can calculate lots of other things that'll be really important. All right, that's it for the instructions. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, drleenewman@gmail.com. You can feel free to call me at 412-418-2387. Let's make 2016 best year ever in practice. Thanks.